Good evening, everyone. Such a pleasure to, be back. The global backdrop, as we know currently, is actually quite noisy. Tariffs, supply chains, global growth, rupee, dollar, manufacturing. A lot is at play. So how is the world evolving? How will the world evolve? And what really could be the shape of India at a time when deglobalization seems to be a ugly truth? So today we'll talk about tariffs, how this could really have impact on two global sectors, steel and pharma. And Mr. Shanghvi, I know I am on your left side, but that's not the wrong side. But is India on the wrong side of what is happening to global tariffs, given that Indian pharma sector gets more than 30% of its business from the US or United States alone? What would tariffs do to Indian pharma sector?
So our view is that we have to wait for the issue to clear, because the products that we supply to the US fulfill a very important requirement for the US government, which is to control the healthcare cost in the US. If you read some of the statements, then they're also looking at multiple carve-outs so that some of the products will be kept out of the scope of the tariff. We have to wait for PM to share with us what has been his understanding. But I believe that pharma generic products will be spared. Even if they are not, I think the generic business, as you're aware, has undergone significant price erosion over last few years. So in case if tariffs are levied, I think most of those tariffs will be passed on to customers. So I'm not seeing a significant negative impact of the tariff on the industry, because the competitive advantage that we have as a country is long term. It's not going to go away overnight. And even if some manufacturing was to start, in pharma business it takes at least 5 to 7 years to bring a new manufacturing facility online, get products approved, start manufacturing. So it's a long-term process. So I expect no immediate short-term impact on tariff in pharma industry.
So if I can pick from your initial answer, Mr. Shanghvi, can I say that Indian pharma sector has nothing to worry? In fact, this actually would be an opportunity for Indian pharma sector, because tariffs are coming on China, they're not coming on India.
No, I think you're reading more than what I said. What I said is that our products fulfill a very important healthcare need in the US. So I expect this to be kept out of the scope of tariff. And even if they are not, I think most of the tariff will be passed on to consumer. But what impact it has on the business, very difficult to predict. But we fulfill an important role, and that gives me the confidence that in case if there is a negative, it will be minimum.
Mr. Jindal, that is not the story for the steel sector. For steel sector, tariffs already have been announced, and we know how tariffs, in a sense, could impact steel demand. Is Indian steel sector ready to deal with this reboot in global steel tariffs?
Good evening, everyone. So many of you would be surprised to know that these tariffs from US actually is just not now 25%. There are many products, they're more than 200%. And it's been like that for decades already now. So Indian steel production, I'm sure all of you know that India is the second largest producer of steel in the world. And our capacity is more than double of that of USA. And our population is more than 4 times of USA. So we produce steel in India not for USA. We primarily produce steel for domestic consumption. We are growing. We are a growing economy. We are growing at a very fast rate, much faster than US or any other country. So our demand is mostly for domestic consumption. And this tariff, it may help us in fact, if they only put 25% and remove all the other, They have anti-dumping duty, they have countervailing duty, etc., which is more than 200%. If they removed all that and put only 25%, and that equates us with every other steel producer in the world, then maybe it may work to our benefit, in fact.
But are Indian steel companies globally competitive? Because the view, at least in the stock markets and those who track steel sector, is that China is better, Russia is cheaper.
Indian steel is, like I said, is now second largest producer of steel in the world after China. We are very competitive. We have built our plants now. So we have very, very modern plants. And we are able to compete with everybody. There's hardly any protection that Indian steel industry has. But obviously with this, all the countries that were exporting to USA, they might start wanting to dump in India because we have a huge demand. So for that, Indian steel industry would have to be protected from unfair exports happening into India. So for that, we have already as the Indian Steel Association, we are already in talks, we have already, filed applications. So DGTR, they are already reviewing, and we hope that in the near future, we are expecting the Commerce Ministry to put countervailing duty duty on all imports from every country.
So I'll come to what India should do, but I'll just turn my
safeguard duty.
Safeguard duties, yeah, of course. When do you see that coming?
Sorry?
When do you see the duties coming? Because there is an indication that duties are coming.
We've been waiting for it for some time now. So I hope soon.
Mr. Shanghvi, just to introduce Sun Pharma for the audience here and for millions of our viewers who would be watching this show. Sun Pharma is India's largest pharma company. Sun Pharma is India's largest pharma exporter. Sun Pharma has the largest market share in the branded market. Sun Pharma has the highest spend on R&D. Am I missing on anything?
It's good.
Sun Pharma has the highest market cap in terms of a pharma.
We believe that our performance should talk for us rather than us talking for the performance.
Indian pharma sector has really moved up the value chain from oral and generic, then to complex, and now to specialized. Where do you see the Indian pharma sector moving, evolving, and expanding?
No, I think as you rightly say, Indian companies which were essentially inward looking in last 20 years have started focusing on international business, and we have done quite well. Almost, let's say, 4 or 5 tablets out of 10 consumed in the US are produced or linked with the Indian API. So that's a remarkable achievement in a relatively short period of time. So what it to me reflects is that as an industry and as people working in the industry, we are able to do whatever that we wish to and focus on doing. Innovation, I think, is something that we have not done till now. As a company, Sun Pharma started investing in specialty product a few years back. We've invested till now some $3-4 billion in that business, and that business is now almost 20% of our turnover, but growing very rapidly. And we will continue to make investment to make it bigger. Because globally, if I look at generics represent around 15% of the total business in terms of top line. 85% is still specialty products. So it is important for us to succeed in that business. We are very small there, but I think like when we started, we were a small company in an industry where many large companies we were competing. Our focus is that how do we use our smallness of size to become a competitive advantage, decide faster, take innovative solutions so that we can grow. So we focused on ophthalmology as well as dermatology, which are relatively small therapy areas and not very attractive to very big pharma companies. So we can focus, because for us a $500 million global product is a big product. For them a product less than $1 billion is not economically viable. So we want to play in an area where we can compete with people who are similar to us and we can find a way to grow. To your question as to how Indian companies will compete and become successful, I think I am very confident of industry's ability to do whatever it is focused on doing. So I'm expecting that when, say like we have some close to 20 products in different stages of clinical development, all products developed in India. So if some of them becomes globally successful, I think it will create a virtuous cycle, and Indian companies will start investing larger sums of money in innovative products so that we can become a more meaningful player globally.
I'd like to share with the audience here that it has taken us almost 5 years to convince Mr. Shanghvi to come for an interaction. So I've got a lot of questions. I hope you're ready, sir.
Sure.
So I will take the chance of taking the 5 years forward. क्या पता अगले 5 साल तक बात करें नहीं करें हम.
Sure.
तो मैं 5 साल आगे का सवाल पूछ लेता हूँ.
Sure, sure, sure.
We are in 2025. Hypothetically, if we are in 2030, what do you think we should be discussing about Sun Pharma? 5 साल आगे.
So I think if I look at and split our business into different components, then emerging market in India branded generic business is almost 50% of our business. The US generic business is around 25% of the business, and rest of the business is specialty and API business. So, and I expect each of this business to continue to grow faster than the industry. But I expect specialty business to be a much bigger part of the company than what it is today. Today it's, as I said, almost 20% of our company, but growing much faster than the other businesses. So maybe from 20 we will go to 25, 30 of a much larger turnover.
Mr. Jindal, आप भी कम ही आते हो. आप 3 साल में एक इंटरव्यू देते हो. तो from 2025 to 2028, if you are talking about JSPL, this company which you are present, and the Jindal group, how do you see things shaping up in future which could be different from the present?
By 2030, it's important for everyone to know that India's steel target capacity is 300 million tons. So presently our capacity is around 180 million tons. Per capita consumption is only about 100 kg per person. And so by 2030, we need to grow from 180 to 300 million ton capacity and probably 250 million tons of production. And Jindal Steel and Power, presently we are producing 9.5 million tons. We hope to increase our capacity to 16 million tons by in the next, I would say, next 6 months. Next 6 months our capacity, in fact, next 3 months we would be adding substantial capacity. And then 2028, we want to take our capacity to around from 16 to maybe around 24 million tons. And we have plans to increase the capacity to 30 million tons by 2030. So that is our plan. And we don't want to be the largest, the biggest producer. We want to be the most efficient and the most profitable steel producer. So India, we can do all that. So we are focusing on our logistics, focusing on raw material security. And now going forward, we are focusing how to reduce our emissions, how to produce green steel. So we are, and the best way is to how to reduce the power consumption from normal fossil fuel to using power, green power, and also introducing hydrogen in steel making. So we are looking towards modernizing and reducing our emissions in a very big way.
So can I say that JSPL is now on a cusp of not incremental change but transformational change, both in terms of capacity, margins, and also the kind of changes you are doing in terms of fuel cost and other savers?
So definitely the endeavor is always that. Okay, what comes out, that time will tell. But obviously we feel that we are on the right path and we are moving in the right direction.
Mr. Shanghvi, what is the risk for big pharma? Is it global generic pricing? Is it changes in terms of how drugs are distributed in America? Or it purely could be on the front of disruption which could happen because of AI? Everybody is talking about AI, AI, AI. What will AI do to you?
So is the question AI or is the question what will happen to drugs?
Both.
Both, okay. So,
आप कम मिलते हो तो मैं ज्यादा सवाल पूछ रहा हूँ.
no, I understand. So I think, see, my view is that much before AI has an impact on, let's say, development of drugs, because drug development takes 8-10 years. And AI can reduce that time, but maybe a few years. But it's still long way away. But I see that AI is already helping the improvement in terms of patient care. Say like using technology and AI, people are able to detect, let's say, diabetic macular edema, wet AMD, using technology and allowing doctors who are not focused on specialty to be able to do that. In the same way, I am seeing that better understanding of infection, so that, say like typically today when you have an infection, you have to do culture, and culture takes 3, 4, 5 days to get result. And then you find the treatment. So it takes time. Technology and AI will help in terms of identifying what is the causing bacteria for infection, and you can start treating patient much faster. You can also understand which drug the bacteria is susceptible to. So I am seeing AI impacting patients much faster than AI introducing new innovative drugs. As to, I think, the risk for big pharma, the biggest risk which I see is that every party, I mean both the party in the US talk about high drug prices in the US. And US is more than now 50% of the pharmaceutical products. So how do we use that, tomorrow what happens to the pricing will impact them much more than anything else that we are discussing.
So, last question to you, sir. If I have to identify the growth curve for any company, companies, they start young, then they reach what could be called as a mature curve, and then they reach what could be called as a decay curve. Can I say that for Sun Pharma and the businesses which you represent, for next 3 to 5 years, you're reasonably confident that you're in a high growth phase?
Yeah, I think our philosophy is always to make investment in short-term, medium-term and long-term returns, so that we will continue to refresh our ability to grow constantly. And hopefully the strategy will help us continue to grow. So like historically we've grown at compounded 25%, and we should be able to continue to do that going forward.
Mr. Jindal, same question. You can always divide the company on their growth phase. Young and startup, then they reach what could be called as high growth phase, then mature curve, and then decay or decadence. Can I say that for the companies which you represent, all the businesses are in high growth phase for next 3 years?
Yeah, definitely. I think both. Steel, power generation is all in high growth phase, because our per capita consumption for steel is amongst the lowest in the world. The world average is more than 200 kg, ours is only 100. USA that we're talking about is more than 400 kg. Same as power consumption is like less than 1100-1200 kilowatt hours per person. In USA it's like 15,000. So to give people a better quality of life, both power consumption and steel consumption is going to increase. To improve infrastructure, housing, etc., steel consumption is going to increase. And we are a very efficient player, and we are growing. We have all the ingredients to be able to grow, like land, clearances, raw materials. So we are already there. And it's a very difficult sector, steel, for a new entrant. So people who are already established, they have a very big advantage of brownfield expansion. So we feel we are in the right spot at the right space, and the kind of conducive environment that is there. So we hope that not only next 5 years, I would say the next 10 years should be very positive.
So give me one reason why somebody should invest in your stock.
Well, somebody should invest in our stock looking at our past track record. And people who invested in our company in the past, they made lots of money. And now things, so looking at a past performance, they can have the confidence that our future performance would be good. So, and people who know we work very, very sincerely and honestly in the company, and that's why they should invest in us.
You know, I've had the pleasure of tracking your company for almost 2 decades now. I can see that how I've had the pleasure of tracking your company for over 2 decades now, and it's absolutely amazing that despite representing a commodity sector which is cyclical in nature, how you've really managed to move the value chain and manage the debt. So it's quite incredible. Mr. Shanghvi, final question. If Dilip Shanghvi of 2025 meets Dilip Shanghvi of 1980 when you started Sun Pharma, what would you like to change? What will 2025 Dilip Shanghvi tell Dilip Shanghvi of 1990?
It took us a long time to, let's say, from when we started with 2 representatives to reach 50. I would find a way to do that much faster.
I would say that, sir, we should not wait for next 5 years to get the next interview.
Sure. No, thank you. Hopefully. Yeah.
And same, Mr. Jindal.
Anytime, I'm available anytime.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. Jindal and Mr. Shanghvi. Let's put our hands together. Both of them, in a sense, are really representing 2 of the best companies in the world in terms of creating shareholder value, in terms of taking the India flag superior and higher, and in terms of really becoming an example to the world that when the going gets tough, the tough they get going. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much.